Hello guys, how we doing today? If you're in New York, we are getting the best weather ever. Super excited for the weather. We've paid our dues. But I am on here, let's wait for a couple people to join us because I want to talk to my ladies, my menstruating ladies, about a topic. There's two themes that I want to talk about that are, actually there's three things now that I'm thinking about it that I want to talk about that are really common, and I've been meaning to get on here. It's been very, very busy. Life's been very full. I celebrated my birthday yesterday. There's no excuse, but I wanted to come on here because I'm like, Elise, you have to talk. You have to talk to these women about a concern. And the concern, the top concern, the one that I think is the most important is birth control. Birth control. You guys know I've spoken about this before, but I am seeing so many more complicating factors on top of the concerns that women may already have with other things. Hormonal issues are on the rise in every which way. And I want to talk about this because I have so many feelings about a lot of things that pharmaceuticals do that hurt us. And birth control is literally one of the most, I don't even know how to describe it. Just, it hurts my heart to think that women are taking birth control. It's a scam. It's a scam. It's hurting your body. It's hurting your hormones. It's hurting your bones. It's affecting your brain. It's a scam. It's a scam. And it's not doing women any form of positive benefits in the sense of their health, realistically speaking. And I understand. So there's this like duality associated with this, that if somebody doesn't want to get pregnant, birth control is the option, right? And I think that that's somewhat true, but I don't think that that's what is happening. And I want to talk about the part that's not happening, which is women are being told to go on birth control when there's problems. And that's what I'm talking about, is if you are taking birth control because you have painful periods, if you're taking birth control because you have some type of like pelvic pain, if you're taking birth control because you have acne, if you're using birth control to try to alter your body's unwanted symptom, it is not right. It is not helping you. It's hurting you. It's not a good thing. And I'm going to share with you guys why. Birth control suppresses hormones. Okay, it suppresses hormones. So when we do lab tests for women that are on birth control, what is going to be in their blood work? Very low estrogen and very low progesterone. Traditionally speaking, estrogen, it looks under 15 units, and progesterone is going to be under 0.5 units. Basically, the person, the young girl, the female, the menstruating female, looks menopausal. Those hormone numbers are associated with women that are in menopause. And we have to realize that these reproductive hormones are not just fertility. It's not just about, oh, can I make a baby? Can I get pregnant? It's not. It's actually a lot of other things that can affect our mood, our cognition, our decision-making skills. There's a lot of factors that get involved when we're talking about hormone things. So one of the things I will say is, first and foremost, if you have a period problem, if you have acne, if you have skin issues, if you have really bad PMDD, if you have PMS, if you have pelvic pain, if you have anything that's period related and your recommendation was to take birth control, go see someone else. It's not going to help you. It's not. It's actually going to hurt you long term because you're going to go off the birth control at some point in your life, and then there's going to be a giant mess waiting for you, whether it's post-birth control syndrome, post-pill amenorrhea, hypothalamic issues. It is not a good thing. I'm seeing so many more young women come for support with their hormones, and years worth of them trying to fix their hormones, literally years. It could take years. This isn't just like a quick thing. It could take years to fix hormonal problems. It's not a quick fix. But if somebody's been suppressed and they've been on birth control, hormonal forms of birth control for a long time, what's going to happen is that they have to recalibrate the entire endocrine system. And that's a big concern. That's a big feedback loop. That's a big thing to do. And I just want women to know that there's other options available. And I have a lot of older women who are in menopause now who are like, I think that the fact that I'm in menopause, the fact that I'm osteoporotic or osteopenic a lot earlier was due to the birth control. And that's true. There's a lot of other things that these sex hormones do for us outside of fertility and baby making. Yes, they're baby makers. Yes, they're fertility hormones, but they are affecting our brain chemistry. Actually, oral contraceptives do reduce the level of serotonin and dopamine in the brain. And so a lot of women, if I could share the experience of kind of the pathway to their health, is a couple things. One of which is this is what they say, oh, I was put on birth control and it was so good. I felt so amazing in the beginning. I really felt so different. And then it stopped working. And then I started to gain a lot of weight for some reason. And I didn't know if it was connected to the birth control. And then I started to have a lot of inflammation in my body. I don't know if it's connected. Then I started to have some breakthrough bleeding. I'm still bleeding even though I'm supposed to be on my sugar pill week, right? And then they end up saying, you know what? I don't even feel that good. I'm taking this and I'm still having period problems. I can't really time my cycle. There's a lot of breakthrough bleeding. And I'm still using Tylenol and things. And my skin doesn't look good. My skin actually looks not great. In the beginning, it can look great. It's like a deal with the devil, right? It can look amazing. And look, I just found this thing that's going to help my hormones and fix me and everything's going to be good, right? No. What happens is the effects of that are dampened and diminished because what seems to be happening in the research is that your body fights a little harder to try to overcome and outcompensate the pharmaceuticals. Your body is in competition with the laws of life. You are meant to have an ovulation cycle each month. You're meant to bleed. You are literally altering laws of life. You're literally trying to play with the laws of life. The sun will come up and the sun will go down, whether you like the sun or not. You need to menstruate, period. You need to menstruate. It's an important factor. But all these things like serotonin, norepinephrine, B12, there's deficiencies that are associated with being on birth control. And those types of things, those neurotransmitters, have a lot to do with how we feel emotionally, energetically, how we actually are feeling, whether it's anxious or motivated. Serotonin is a hormone that can make us feel motivated. It's kind of that feeling of I'm up, I'm ready to rock. Let's get this day started. But if you're altering your serotonin levels because of birth control, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect other things outside of just your menstrual cycle. It affects norepinephrine. It depletes B vitamins. Now, the weight perspective. So weight's a big one. I know a lot of women say, I'd really like to lose weight. I feel like I can't do anything with my weight. It's not shifting. And it is definitely, if you're on birth control, I always encourage, let's see if we can come off some of these things, clean out your liver, get your detox pathways activated, get your endocrine system aligned. And sometimes menstrual concerns are actually not coming from the ovary. We always think about the organs. It may not be at the level of the ovary. It could be a secondary problem where, for example, thyroid issues can cause period concerns. Stagnation in the liver could cause period concerns. Low iron, a lot of times low iron, low ferritin, low iron saturation is going to cause very painful periods because the body's like, no, please, I cannot lose any more iron. We can have scanty or very light flow. Sometimes there's fibroids and different things that are associated at the level of the ovaries, and that could be because hormonal things. So there's a little bit of a bidirectional arrow that my ovaries produce the hormones, and then the hormones they produce can feed some of the growths at the level of the ovaries, like fibroids. The point is that we have to balance hormones. Now, one of the reasons that there's so many problems with the hormone systems, put birth control aside, but let's just talk about hormonal imbalances that may lead women to go on birth control, is our culture. our society. I mean, here we are, I'm in my office, everything's coated in plastic, everything's fireproof and sprayed, metals, molds, there's environmental toxins, there's mycotoxins, there's things that are just in our environment that can make us sick. For example, I'll use C19. I'm still calling it that because obviously we know that there's still a lot of people being, whatever, dismissed and misinformed or whatever from that. So people after C19, for example, had issues with their cycle. So my point is, what does a virus have to do with a period? I had C19 and then I had period problems. How does a virus have anything to do with my menstrual cycle? Because critters, viruses, pathogens actually can affect how we synthesize and produce hormones at the level of the ovary. The ACE receptor seemed to be involved with menstrual cycle issues post C19. So basically my point is that if someone's dealing with hormonal concerns, we have to look at environmental toxins. And somebody might say, I'm a really great eater and still have some concerns. So environmentally speaking, we share this world with other things that can make us very sick to some degree and cause issues with how we can detox and get rid of things in our body. Another factor is our food. Food alone can cause a lot of hormonal issues. A lot of women are very estrogen high, very progesterone low. Progesterone deficiencies are like running rampant. As are iodine deficiencies, which is a whole separate video. Iodine is required to make healthy hormones for your thyroid. The actual name of T3 is triiodothyronine, iodine. You need iodine to synthesize or create both versions of thyroid hormone, both T3s and T4s. But the point of the story is that our food is another reason that we even have problems to begin with in the first place. So I don't really love when women say, no, I'm not eating really well, and no, I'm not exercising, and no, I'm not being mindful of my detox pathways, and I just want to go on birth control because it'll make my life so much easier. No, it won't, because when you're off of it, you may end up having a big, giant mess, and all of the things that you might have been benefiting from on the surface from a symptoms perspective comes back with a vengeance. Let's talk about acne, for example. A lot of women get put on birth control if they're dealing with like hormonal systemic acne. And traditionally speaking, a lot of that is too much male hormone, androgen. So a lot of times too much testosterone, too much dihydrotestosterone, too much male hormone production, which stimulates part of the actual gland. And it affects how the sebaceous glands and some of the oil glands are kind of producing their byproduct. So they say, oh, I'm going to take birth control and then everything's going to be fine. The minute you come off that, your skin is going to be bad. You didn't fix anything. Your skin's probably going to look worse because it's just been kind of like hiding. Your problems have been hiding and now they're going to look a little bit worse. So it's not a solution long term. I have a lot of women. I'm seeing this more and more women that are in their reproductive years, maybe in their 30s. And what ends up happening is that they end up saying, I'm having infertility concerns. I'm struggling to get pregnant. I can't get pregnant. We've miscarried twice, 3 times. I can't get pregnant. And there's a lot of layers to that. Of course, I would want to know about thyroid and progesterone. Those are top 2 things I would look at. Low progesterone and then low thyroid function. But then I would also look at liver health. And I would look at your health history because a lot of the women that say that have a very long history of being on birth control for many, many years. So not saying that every person that has been on birth control will develop this. That's not what this is about. But is it possible that these are factors that can influence longer term some of the ways our body can kind of revamp or like rev up the areas of the body that need to be back online? Yeah, there's some connections to that. It can cause some issues. I'm looking down because I did take some notes. So some of these things that I want to talk about with you guys are connected to a lot of other things. So we talked about obviously birth control affecting neurotransmitters like serotonin, norepinephrine, even things like GABA, which if you're anxious and you're on birth control, not a great combo. Okay? That's not a great thing. It definitely affects the central receptors of the brain. So meaning that some of your hormones won't bind to the receptors, which keep us grounded and calm and relaxed because the birth control is affecting them. Obviously, a lot of nutrient deficiencies. So let's see here. I'm looking at this article from PubMed. This is long-term effects of oral contraceptive. So they're basically looking at this research and they're saying that weight gain blood pressure, cardiovascular incidents, high blood pressure, neurotic mood complaints, libido changes. Literally, it's just looking at women that have been on birth control for, they're saying 4 years or more. That's what this research is studying. They all completed pre-medical exam prior to. They've been studied for all of their kind of lab findings, and then most of them are between the age of 25 to 29. And it basically talks about what are the things that we see based on some of the longer term use, and there's problems across the board. We already have enough things against us in our society that's going to make us have hormonal issues. Now we're adding in another layer. Do not do it, ladies. Do not do it. There's better options out there. The risk of oral contraceptive, especially now post C19, because we're all hearing about cardiomyopathies, we're hearing about cardiac issues, we're hearing about something with how this, either the V or the virus, affected cardiovascular system and like blood, the actual blood itself. We all know, most people know, that just taking oral contraceptives increases risk for cardiovascular events and stroke, and that's not good by any means. So after this new virus that just came through, it's not a good time. There's already evidence to show that the virus, some of the viruses that we've been exposed to recently, are creating issues with our cardiovascular system. And now we're going to add in birth control. This article says the risks of oral contraceptive. Oral contraceptives are associated with increased risk. It doesn't say they have been associated. They might be associated. They say oral contraceptives are associated. They are in the research associated with increased risk for myocardial infarction, stroke, and venous thromboembolism events. So blood clots. There are risks associated with women, and basically they're just saying that there's a lot of effects. And this is in non-smokers. This research study is in non-smokers. There's literature that shows an increased risk of breast cancer associated with long-term contraceptive use. This is oral contraceptives they're using. So for example, not good stuff. There is a price to pay. So my thoughts are, if you've got period problems, that's easier to work with a fix than to develop all these other complicating factors, because now you've got neurotransmitter issues, you've got GABA issues, you're not synthesizing enough serotonin, you're depleted with your vitamins, your B12 is deficient, your anxiety levels are through the roof. What, just to not have a cycle? When if we can make your cycle more tolerable and easy, which there's ways to do that, then we can do that. Weight gain is another one. Oral contraceptive cause weight gain, not initially, usually more long-term. It really happens because sometimes the progestin that they use in some of these birth controls can actually increase some of the androgen effects, some of the more male hormones that can affect weight, which cause more like increase of appetite and sometimes a little bit fluid retention. When that happens, bone fractures, osteoporosis, osteopenia. Obviously, there are large studies that people that have incidents of fractures are they looked at research that said people that took birth control versus people that didn't take birth control, who fractured bones more? People that take birth control, because the hormones affect bones. Yes, your sex hormones, your ovarian hormones, they go widespread. They're not just affecting the level of the ovary, they're affecting your systemic body. We know stroke, obviously we just talked about that. Cancers of the cervix, breast, and liver. Now, where we are demographically in New York on Long Island, there is already a hub of breast cancer. There's already a hub of hormonal breast cancer, estrogen dominant breast cancers. Do we need to be playing with some of these things to mess up some of the systems to create more risk factors? No, the risk factors are here demographically if you live here, whether it's the gene pool, whether we're like over some type of like, who knows, some plate in the earth, we don't know. Migraines, obviously, most of the time, if you are taking a birth control that contains some type of estrogen, not good for people that are on migraines. Supplementation, obviously, all of the things get depleted. There's a cost-benefit analysis here, and when I'm looking at the research, I'm not feeling so proud to say this seems like a good idea, right? The pros and cons ain't looking so even. Obviously, nutrient deficiency. So not only do they affect your hormones, they affect all of your vitamins, B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, B12, zinc, selenium, CoQ10, glutathione. All these things get tanked. people's digestive systems, their bowel movements are altered. A lot of times when you're on birth control, how you poop is affected in a negative way. A lot of fluid retention, water retention happens. It's just not worth it. The point of the story is I can go down a rabbit hole. We already have enough things affecting our hormone systems, from just environmental toxins, metals, plastics, molds, viruses, pathogens, species in our world. We don't need more stuff. Our soil's very depleted, right? We have low iodine in our soil, which can cause issues with our thyroid. So basically, we don't necessarily need to keep doing this. Now, another factor too that's shown in the research is that oral contraceptive or any form of birth control also affects gut microbiome health. So the gut microbiome is a big player when it comes to having a good, healthy gut microbiome. To be able to have really good gut health is everything. Gut health stems, it literally is the root of the tree. Without good gut health, a lot of things can happen. We can have problems in a lot of different ways. So there is research to show that it changes the microbiome, and certain species die off, certain species grow too much. Not good. Someone saying, if I want to come in for evals and labs eventually, would you suggest I get off the birth control pill? Not necessarily, because sometimes if there are some concerns that are pretty significant, like let's just say, like I know women that are in the hospital each month because that's how bad their pelvic pain is, and being on the pill is the only thing that seems to help. You can't just rip the rug underneath someone first. So you'd probably want to do it incrementally, where you're getting some support first, some basic foundational principles of health, and then after some time you can have them kind of come off of it. So I wouldn't recommend pulling people off that, because sometimes there's benefits to certain things from their symptoms that you can't just do it quick. There's a little bit of an order to that. So that's not necessarily required. Although if you do look at your blood work, I will say that some of the blood work findings will probably be a little altered in that regard. Like hormonally speaking, like your estradiol, your total estrogen, your pregnenolone, your progesterone, even sometimes the adrenal hormones, things like adrenal corticotropic hormone, all those factors, some of the adrenal hormones, DHEA sulfate, those things could be a little altered for a lot of reasons. So there is research to show too that birth control affects the thyroid. It messes with your thyroid gland, and there's a lot of women. Oh my gosh, there's a huge fly that just flew not out the window. I have my windows open because it's so nice here and I don't have screens on them. This happens all the time this time of year. I open the windows and then the flies come, and they're giant, or maybe that's a bee. Anyways, where was I? So no, I wouldn't suggest just like ripping yourself off that stuff. There's probably a lot of other factors too. You want to do a full workup of just everything of where you are now and where you are in the future. But I did want to come on and talk about this. I do have to let you guys go because I have a patient coming in soon, but I definitely wanted to hop on to talk about it because it just breaks my heart. Truly, it makes me so sad when I see women, I talk to them, I'm meeting with them for the first time, and they're like, yeah, I take birth control. And I say, tell me about that, like process. Like, was it because you're trying to prevent birth, or were you put on it for a different reason? What was the intention of it? And it's just one of those things that we've got to do better for women. Especially women that are prescribing these things. Most women see female gynecologists. If you're a female gynecologist and you're prescribing birth control to women, I don't know how you do that. I really don't know how you do that. I think it's just not serving the woman in any regard. We're talking about health here. This is about health. How do I be optimal? Health is optimal. How do I feel really good? How do I be healthy and not have complications in the future? How do you help me to not develop risk factors of stroke? How do you help my body? If you're not helping my body, then you're not helping. I don't think that those are doctors. Those are just pill pushers. I really don't. I have to not get heated about this topic because I get very, very angry about this when I see women that, oh, I'm just on birth control. Okay, well, let's wait till you're a little bit older and then you try to get pregnant and now you've got amenorrhea and your hormones are an absolute disaster and you're struggling with infertility. I don't think that what you did back then is going to help you, right? The hormone issues they haven't been addressed. So it's a big problem. And I think women need to talk about this and understand that there's other options. And I really like some of these social media platforms because I have a lot of young women that are like, oh, I learned on TikTok, or somebody recommended that, maybe it's my thyroid or maybe it's my adrenals. And it's like, yes. It's probably all those things. And let's go look, let's go evaluate, let's be thorough. Let's do your body a service of homeostasis and get you back to basics. Like today, Get outside, get in nature, get a little vitamin D on your skin, through your eyes. It stimulates pineal gland production, melatonin production, which helps with some of the pituitary gland hormones. Breathe some fresh air. Look at what you're eating. A lot of times we're eating oily, greasy, fried food. We're eating a lot of cow dairy, a lot of pro-inflammatory foods, things that stimulate the arachidonic acid pathway, the COX pathway, the things that affect the inflammation. So if we can look at the driving factors more than just stopping the process, much better option. You guys get the point. But anyways, just wanted to talk about that. The next video we're going to talk about is going to be progesterone and why low progesterone is so important for menstrual cycles. If you've got period problems the week before your period, if you're moody, cranky, tired, really, really like zonked, maybe have a very scanty or light cycle, sometimes it's the progesterone. I see a lot more women that have under 0.5 in their labs, very, very progesterone deficient. Part of that is diet, part of that is environmental. But that's going to be the next video about period problems, usually like the week before the cycle. Usually when women bleed, they're like, I feel good. I feel like during the actual week of the bleed, I'm pretty good. It's that 7 to 10 days prior to that sometimes can be a massive mess for women. And sometimes it's the progesterone. Okay, so we're going to talk about progesterone in the next little clip. If you guys have questions or thoughts, drop them down below. I would love to hear your feedback around some of these topics and maybe your experience. If you're someone that's been on birth control and have had some of like maybe this experience where you're like, yeah, I got off birth control and I didn't have a period for three years, and all my skin stuff came back and all my hormones came back and whatever it is, right? If you're open to sharing, please do. I think more people need to hear from those people that are struggling versus just, oh, it's all rainbows and butterflies over here. Okay. Someone saying I was put on for menstrual issues that destroyed your thyroid. Exactly. It's not a good option. The way I think about pharmaceuticals, and I'm not like knocking the pharmaceutical field, like thank God we have them. Thank gosh we have them. But when it comes to these types of problems, like cyclical biofeedback loops, not a great option for care, not a good option long-term. I'm always thinking about like longevity, like the longevity of the person's health, not just like the in the moment short duration stuff, but like, is this going to help them long-term not have problems in certain regards? And a lot of times it's a quick fix and it's the only fix. And I tell women all the time, don't be frustrated if you go to your gynecologist and they say, let's just put you on birth control. That's the only tool they have in their toolbox. There's nothing else that they have. There really isn't. There's nothing else that they have in their toolbox besides you've got period problems, go home, let's put you on a birth control and then come back and see me in 6 months. Not sure how that's really a good thing for someone. Not really sure. Okay. Anyways, I will talk to you guys soon. Happy to see you. Happy Thursday. Happy to be back. That's it. See you guys soon.